part 4 movie will be about Garrett ATX PI machine.
Of course, I brought the gold and the potatoes. I chose the biggest potatoes I could find, cut a little slice off it, and take out a hole with a spoon. It's rotten in here.
That's all right, you gotta leave.
Before we start melting our first button, we char the potato first. Next, we add a layer of borax to the bottom of the potato and heat it up again. We are aiming at melting an ounce at a time. The borax decreases the melting temperature of gold and takes out any impurities.
Should be able to see while it's starting.
Yeah, you see what's happening. It's jointed into a bowl.
Yeah.
Easy jump.
Is it all
A
on?
little bit in there, but
Yeah, but
that'll go with the next lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, or whether you've just got a little clump of shit. That'll look hot enough to me.
No.
What?
Too late, isn't it? Yeah, no.
Not hot enough.
Not hot enough. It's still got a little gold.
On that side.
Yeah.
And now it's wet, is that alright? Or?
Yeah, it'll dry real quick.
Need more borax or just go again?
I'd put more borax in there.
Yeah, it hasn't bloody...
Put it up. Lots in there. Doesn't matter. Gives you more slag than the borax does. You want slag to take out the impurities.
Gold should be all down on the bottom of the potato.
Yeah, you'll be able to see it when you get it hot enough. Get it really, really hot.
The beauty about melting gold is, if you're not happy with the result, you can just throw the mix back into the potato and just melt it again.
Yeah, do it.
You can't chuck it in straight away or it'll go like
Splatter.
popcorn, eh?
Pretty. Not really.
Slag on it.
Yeah.
A bit.
Let the supervisor have a look.
What do you reckon, Eric?
Working hot enough.
Looks a bit lumpy to me, doesn't it?
Yeah, working hot
There's
enough.
slag still through it.
Got a lot of slag in it.
Yeah.
But it should come out.
Put that on it.
Go hard.
Oh yeah, I used to use it with those.
More?
Yeah, we'll have another one on top.
On top. I think so.
We had it was hot enough then. The way Adrian was doing it last time was right.
Yeah.
We just need to do it a little bit longer, that's all. Blow up the concrete.
Just thinking that.
Oh, that's a button here.
Yeah, you just got to chip that.
Yeah, that heaps better now.
First button.
Check it out. Yeah, look at that. That's pretty good.
That is good.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a button.
Yeah.
That's a proper button.
That's nice one, that one. Lots better than all that little fine shit you had before.
Yeah, I know. So much better than the powder. Okay, next one. The first melt was just a practice run. We now use more borax and wait longer until we can see the gold glow deep orange. And a bit hot.
I don't see the water coming out yet.
That works today.
Yeah. That one actually melted in pretty well.
Ow! That's what it was like when I had the hammer and the chisel digging it out. We'll sweep your shit afterwards. Nice. Shiny.
What are those two weigh?
The first one, Chrissy?
First one.
23 grams.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
34. Yeah, a tiny bit over an ounce. That one.
Yeah. But I reckon we can do an ounce at a time.
58 grams.
58.
I think 33 grams an ounce, something like that. 30 or 33.
Take me a little bit to get. Should all have the same purity, it's all of the same hole.
There's 50.19 grams.
XRF machine.
Yeah. Must have.
So this machine basically tells us how much gold, silver.
Yep, all the purities and impurities in it. It shows you down to parts per million. That's super accurate. Uses fluorescent X-ray at 96.32%.
96% gold?
Yep.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
After I sold the gold in Perth, I went straight to the seller's place, spent the money already, and drove home with my new...
I'm going to show you how to use this to make this. Now, old timers have been using potatoes to smelt gold for years. So I'm going to show you how they used to do it, and so you can do it too. And I'm going to show you how the old timers use one of these to get rid of the mercury that was on their gold instead of using a retort. First thing you want to do is cut that thing in half. Take the bigger half and carve out a little cup in it. This is where your gold is going to be sitting. Don't throw away the other half, because you'll need that later on if you want to get rid of that mercury. Now, you know I've got other impurities in the gold, and I've got a lot of black sand in there too. And we're going to get rid of those today using a potato. Keep in mind that there's a difference between smelting and melting. Smelting looks something like this. Oh, that's dry now. Look at that. Alright, that should be good. Look at that. Alright, we'll go ahead. Put the gold in there with the flux, fire it up, and pour it into our cone mold. See what we get. And I'm going to add a little bit of thinner just for fun. Now, as a rule, you should only fill this 2/3. I'm a little bit higher because you want to allow for any bubbling or splattering or boiling over. I got a little bit full on this one, but hopefully it'll be all right. You want these to breathe, oxygenate, so it'll oxidize out the lead, so they have a larger hole on the top, just for these larger cupels. And I'll make a video about that too. And then here's a little tiny cupel, you can see the difference. Yeah, always make sure you keep an eye on it to make sure it doesn't try to boil over. Keep that cone mold up so you don't have thermal shock when you go to dump it in. Now I wanted to show you that they do make a flux for sulfide ore. You see that? And we got this from Action Mining Services. They're a fantastic company that specializes in these types of fluxes. Did you see how that poured out like water? That's because I put the thinner in there. Always put your lid on and then turn these off and let it cool down slowly. If you leave the lid off, it can get too cold too fast and start cracking and fracturing. Now you see where this is cracked and fractured? That's why you gotta be careful with it. Some guys like to put one of these over the top while it's cooling because that'll fracture and that's glass. You don't want to get that in your eye. Oh, look at that. Now that is a beautiful bead of gold. And of course, melting, you're just bringing it up to about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit and melting the gold. Now after you mine the gold out, you have to concentrate it. And that could mean using a shaker table, a spiral bowl, or a wash plant.
Don't be lazy. Hit that subscribe button. God wasn't lazy when he made, after he made heaven and earth, he made the universe. And he made man so good that a chiropractor can work on his back and it will lower his blood pressure. And if you're one of these people that takes medicine and it lowers your immune system, you can tell that because the medicine people say that you take this medicine, you can catch something bad. A chiropractor can work on that to get that fixed too.
The Garrett ATX comes fully assembled. Simply remove it from its soft carry case and fold open the search coil. Disengage both the armrest and stem rotation lock to allow the stem to rotate. Rotate the stem and search coil to level and release the spring-loaded rotation lock to allow it to automatically re-engage. The search coil can also be locked at 90 degrees to the left or right for scanning walls and embankments. When the search coil is locked in your preferred orientation, re-engage the armrest lock. The ATX can be operated with the stems fully collapsed, fully extended, or anywhere in between. To extend the telescopic stem to the desired operating length, begin by loosening the bottom stem nut closest to the search coil. Fully extend the bottom stem and tighten the bottom stem nut. Then loosen the middle stem nut, extend the middle stem, and tighten the nut. The upper stem should be used for final adjustments to the desired operating length. The correct operating length should allow you to stand upright, no stooping forward, and swing the coil in front of you without stretching or bending. To move the armrest forward or backward, open the armrest locking lever, slide the armrest to the desired position, and lock the lever. To adjust the tension on the search coil, use a thin coin or a flathead screwdriver. Turn the screw clockwise to increase tension. When properly tightened, the search coil should maintain its position parallel to the ground while still allowing tilting during operation. Do not over-tighten. To connect the ATX headphones, remove the dust cap from the headphone connector on the back panel. Ensure the headphone connector is clean. Notice the orientation of the connector before attempting to insert it. If the detector will be submerged, be sure to lubricate the O-ring on the connector with silicone grease. Fully insert the connector until it snaps snugly into place. Slide the metal locking collar onto the threads and tighten by hand. Do not over-tighten. The on-off switch for the ATX is located on the back of the electronics housing. It is best to switch on and operate the detector outdoors and away from sources of electrical interference, such as power lines, electrical equipment and appliances, fluorescent lights, or transmitters. Immediately after the initial turn on, listen for 1 to 4 audio beeps, indicating the charge level of the batteries. 4 beeps indicates fully charged. 1 beep and a flashing low battery warning light indicates low charge and that the battery should be replaced. During operation, the yellow low battery warning light will begin flashing when there's approximately 30 minutes of battery life remaining. In addition to the flashing LED, a brief audio alarm will sound every 60 seconds. If no beep is heard after switching the detector on, verify the batteries have been properly installed. The ATX operates with a continuous audio that responds proportionately to a target's signal strength. Large or strong signals sound loud. Small or weak signals sound faint. This enhances the ability to hear faint targets and better judge a target's size, shape, and depth. By their nature, high-performance pulse detectors are often noisier than VLF-type detectors. Therefore, some minor audio noise or chatter is normal. An experienced operator will learn how to distinguish random background noise from repeatable target signals. In motion mode, the search coil must be in motion to create a response. As a general rule, poor conductors, such as small nuggets, most jewelry, small bronze coins, or nickels, should produce a high tone followed by a low tone echo. Good conductors, such as large nuggets, copper and silver coins, or large bronze coins, should produce a low tone followed by a high tone echo. Most, but not all, iron will produce a low tone followed by a high tone echo. Since to a PI detector, most iron behaves like a good conductor. In non-motion mode, the coil is not required to be moving for the ATX to produce a response. Also, targets do not produce the echo heard in motion mode. So, in non-motion mode, poor conductors produce a high tone, and good conductors produce a low tone without the echo. Target signals are visually indicated on the ATX by the upper row of LEDs. A trio of red LEDs moves from left to right in response to the increasing strength of the target. Zero signal response is indicated when there are no lighted LEDs. During adjustments, the upper row of LEDs also show the settings. The ATX has two levels of controls, primary and secondary. All primary controls, sensitivity, threshold, retune, pinpoint, frequency scan, and iron check, are indicated with white letters on the control panel. These controls are directly accessible. Secondary controls, discrimination, volume, mode, ground track, and ground balance, are indicated with red letters on the control panel. These are accessible by first pressing the shift button, which turns on the red shift LED. Secondary adjustments must be made while the shift LED is lit. Otherwise, the ATX will automatically exit the secondary shift mode and return to primary adjustments in 5 seconds. One important thing to note, when adjusting any setting, primary or secondary, the initial button press always shows the current setting. Subsequent presses must be made within 1.5 seconds in order to adjust the setting. Otherwise, the LEDs will return to showing signal strength. The ATX can detect targets in either motion mode or non-motion mode. To switch to detection mode, press and release the shift button to access the secondary controls. Press the non-motion/motion button to toggle between the two modes. Motion mode is indicated by central LEDs that quickly scan back and forth. Non-motion mode is indicated by stationary LEDs. The red shift LED must be visible to switch detection modes. Press and release the shift button again to exit secondary adjustments. Motion mode is the default setting. It is usually preferred because it is more stable and quiet, but requires the search coil to be in motion to detect targets. When in motion mode, the ATX constantly adjusts to keep the threshold tuned to a constant level. In highly mineralized ground, motion mode can also help to suppress unwanted ground signals. Non-motion mode can provide additional detection depth and allows the search coil to scan very slowly, even stationary, over targets. Non-motion mode is better at isolating targets, as target signals do not produce the audio echo which is heard in motion mode. Non-motion mode may be less stable and noisier than motion mode, and more frequent retunes may be required to cancel audio threshold drift and other environmental changes. The more powerful non-motion mode leaves all threshold tuning to the user. In highly mineralized ground, non-motion mode may be more susceptible to ground variations, so it is even more important to use proper coil swing techniques. The use of non-motion mode requires practice and is not recommended for beginners. Operating near power lines, other detectors, fluorescent lights, or other power sources may cause interference for your ATX. To check, hold the search coil stationary away from any metal and listen for signal interference. If noisy operation is present, use the frequency scan function to obtain the quietest operating frequency for your ATX. To perform a frequency scan, hold the search coil away from any metal. Then press and release the frequency scan button. The search coil must remain stationary during the entire frequency scan process, which lasts for 35 seconds, as indicated by the scanning LEDs and audio pings. Completion is indicated by a triple beep. The new setting remains in the ATX's memory until the next time this function is performed, even after power is switched off and the batteries are removed. If you have accidentally activated the frequency scan function and want to abort, press the frequency scan button again to stop the function. The setting will return to its previous value. The ATX is capable of rejecting or discriminating out certain types and sizes of targets while still detecting others. The ATX has 25 levels of discrimination. To adjust discrimination, press and release the shift button to access secondary controls. Then use the disc plus and minus buttons to adjust the discrimination to your preferred level. Zero discrimination is indicated by LED 1. Maximum discrimination is indicated by LED 13. Half-step adjustments are indicated by 2 LEDs lit simultaneously. Press and release the shift button again to exit secondary adjustments. As discrimination is increased, you gradually begin to lose targets that are poor conductors, such as saltwater and nickel. You also begin to lose very small, thin targets, such as thin coins, bits of foil, small nuggets, and thin jewelry. Large iron is the last to be discriminated. It is therefore recommended to search with the default discrimination level of 0, as indicated by the first LED. Increase discrimination if desired to eliminate certain small targets, such as pull tabs or foil, but doing so may also eliminate small desirable targets. Increased discrimination may also be used to reduce interference from highly mineralized ground. However, this should rarely be required. Increase the ATX's sensitivity setting to achieve greater detection depth and enhanced detection of small targets. Be aware, however, that increasing sensitivity can also increase the detector's susceptibility to electrical interference and other external conditions. The ATX has 13 settings for sensitivity. The default sensitivity setting is 10. Use the sensitivity plus and minus buttons to adjust to your preferred level. In general, set the sensitivity as high as possible while still achieving sufficiently stable operation. Use higher sensitivity settings when searching for very small or very deep targets. Use lower sensitivity levels in locations where the detector is behaving erratically and the erratic operation cannot be resolved with ground balance or a frequency scan. Threshold is the constant audio background hum that is added to the target response. The ATX has 25 levels of threshold adjustment. The default threshold setting is level 7. Use the threshold plus and minus buttons to adjust the threshold to your preferred level. It is recommended the threshold be set to a barely audible level, or just below, based on hearing ability and surrounding audio conditions. Faint targets may only create a small variation in the audio. Therefore, running with a high threshold level may obscure such a target signal. Setting the threshold level too low may prevent faint signals from being heard. Readjust the audio threshold level as conditions such as strong winds or surf noise affect your ability to hear the background hum at a barely audible level. The ATX's volume adjustment only affects the maximum audio level produced by a large signal. And does not affect the audio level or sensitivity of a faint signal. Volume on the ATX is thus a limiter and not a gain control, thereby ensuring maximum detection of faint signals. The ATX has 25 levels of volume adjustment. The default setting is 10. To adjust audio volume, press and release the shift button to access secondary controls. Use the volume plus and minus buttons to adjust the volume to your preferred level. Concentrations of ground mineralization can create erratic sounds or ground noise and can reduce detector performance if the mineralization is not compensated for. The ATX has advanced ground balance capabilities to handle all ground conditions, including ironstone ground and even salt water, without the need to switch into a special mode. It is recommended to ground balance the ATX in each new environment in order to ensure maximum detection depth. Be careful not to ground balance over a target, as you may effectively eliminate the target in most cases. To ground balance the ATX, find an area clear of metallic objects and raise the search coil about 6 inches above the ground. Press and release the shift button to access secondary controls. Then press and hold the ground balance button and wait for the double beep to indicate the ground balance function is engaged. While continuing to hold the ground balance button, quickly bounce the search coil from 1 to 6 inches above the ground. Continue to pump the coil until the ground response is completely eliminated. Release the ground balance button and begin hunting. The first few seconds of ground balance audio allows you to hear how mineralized the ground is. Lightly mineralized ground will initially produce weak audio, while heavily mineralized ground will initially produce strong audio.
Well, hello folks, here we are again, part 4, I think. MindLab GPX 5000, the king of the hill, against the Garrett ATX, the newcomer on the market. Now, I don't want you guys to think that I'm trying to get you to sell your 5000 and get an ATX. That was not my intention, because I'm not going to sell mine. Heck no, man. So, a shout out to you guys on the Fine Mall. Shout out to you guys at the TreasureNet Forum and the Arizona Outback Forum, Rob Allison's Nugget Hunting Forum, and special shout out to you guys in the Aussie Forum, the godetecting.forumer.net forum, and the Finders Forum. Shout out to all you guys. Appreciate all your comments, whether you like me or not. I appreciate it. And I'm just trying to show you an option here. Alternative detector. This is actually a high-end detector, mid-range price, right? Not telling you to go out and sell this thing, no way in heck. But for you pro guys that do this for a living every day, this could be the ATX could be a good tool, added tool to your arsenal. You know, I don't expect to go sell that 5000, but you can add you a tool here for the guys that do it every once in a while, like me. I mean, I mine 6 months out of the year full time, pretty much. Well, you know, that's part time, but 6 months it's pretty much full time. Anyway, I detect a lot. I like having a couple of these for my arsenal, you know. And you guys that don't have a lot of cashola, this is the best bang for the buck. If you can't afford that, if you're
with the SDC 2300, a pulse induction machine that has a monocoil, very different than a DD type of coil. Okay, so now in this other segment, I'm going to demonstrate pinpointing with a pulse induction machine. This is the SDC 2300. It's another machine that I recommend, a machine that I use a lot, and it's good at getting small gold. It's good for a PI machine. It does great, and I'll put a link to it in the description section below this video, and so if you want to check it out on Amazon. But this is how to do pinpointing with a machine like this. Now, just to talk to you guys about this, this is what's called a monocoil, and the sensitivity on this is around the outer edge. There's no coil in the middle. It's just all the wire is around the outer edge of this. So its sensitivity is on the outer edge. And actually doing a line across like this gives you the maximum sensitivity to small targets. So a lot of times when I'm fishing around, I will try and put a target across the top like that. So it's a automatic ground balancing machine. So here's a check. You'll hear it respond. That's a nice strong target sound. But it doesn't really tell you where you're going. So I stand just like the other one, and I will go over it. And it basically gives me the same kind of a line to mark the target. I see a lot of people with these detectors doing things like this. And they get, you know, you don't get a good indication of where the target is by just shoving it like this. You have to have a controlled swing. You can see there's only one thing, one signal, a wow, and the peak of it is right over the target. And then I will do the same thing, turn 90 degrees. And you got to swing slowly. That's another thing. When you go over the target to pinpoint it, you don't want to swing fast. It gives you the maximum signal when you swing slowly and go right over the target. So again, I've created two lines at the intersection of which is the target. But just shoving in like this, you know, you can see how people, a lot of times people with coils like this, they'll get a target and they'll end up digging a great big old crater and fishing around. One of the things too that I wanted to talk about was pinpointers. And pinpointers can, a lot of makers make pinpointers, and for coin digging, pinpointing is great and very important and very useful. But for gold nuggets, a lot of times pinpointers aren't sensitive enough to see small nuggets. So you can get in there and your machine hears it, but you go fishing around with your pinpointer and maybe it can't even see the target, or it can only see it if it's virtually almost touching the target. So although I own a good pinpointer, I almost never use it when I'm digging nuggets because the machine is so much more sensitive than the pinpointer. Now there are occasionally times when you want a pinpointer when you're out nugget hunting. If you come over some gigantic target, your machine will sound off from a long ways and you'll have a hard time figuring out where it is. And the pinpointer, actually, because it's less sensitive than your machine, will help you find where in the hole the target is. I've seen people, and I've done it myself, dig down past a target when the target's in the wall of the thing, and you can't tell that with the wall of the hole, when you can't tell that with your metal detector, but the pinpointer will tell if you have a giant target in the wall of your hole.
I have to put in an advertisement now for the Adirondack Mountains. My name is Gareth Tooley. I'm the CEO of 22nd Century New Technologies Company, Incorporated. I got this name a long time ago because I looked at small, very small stocks. One of these stocks made scrubbers for CO2 scrubbers for electric coal burning smokestacks. These scrubbers took out CO2. This is what Biden is worried about. Everybody knows that they made fire extinguishers from CO2 because the CO2 would go down to the ground and stay there and smother the fires. And a long time ago, there was a guy that had tuberculosis. He went up to the Adirondack Mountains. In 3 weeks, he was cured. In that 3 weeks, when he went there, he thought he was going to die. So he made a tuberculosis hospital where they fixed tuberculosis. That's how clean the air is up in the Adirondack Mountains. And when it gets 20 to 30 degrees outside, the cold weather takes all this CO2 right down to the ground. Captain Joe says, when you look up the air and see the jets going by, and you see fumes behind it, that's just like your breath when you're outside cleaning your windshield wipers. So you can think of Al Gore when he's flying around in his jet. He's helping the planet because all that jet fumes, CO2, is going down to the ground and into the ocean. And he's saving the seaweeds to be grown. So he's saving the planet.
Take your best, Mr. Chairman. Panelists, let me just go right down the line real fast. What % of our atmosphere is CO2? Take your best guess. You don't have to be accurate. All down the line.
Repeat that question.
What % of our atmosphere is CO2, carbon dioxide? Wild guess, it's okay.
About 5%.
Right?
I'll just follow you then.
We'll guess 7.
I'll see their 5 and suggest that we know that transportation causes 49% of CO2, so that's why we're all working on energy transition.
All right. So what number do you think it is?
5.
5? How about you? I didn't hear you, Mr. Dreyer.
7.
7. Do you have one, Mr. Boyd?
So we got a 5, 7,
Price is right.
8. I'm gonna
Okay.
get the high end.
All right. Well, I appreciate that, and I don't mean to I put you on ice. I ask a lot of people that because all we hear is climate change, CO2, CO2. I heard a couple of you on the panel saying you're looking to change your vehicles to electric, even though we don't have the electric grid. And me as a farmer, I wouldn't be real happy about running out and replacing $300,000, $500,000, $1 million pieces of equipment because someone wants it to be electric. The answer is 0.04%. Not 1%, not 0.5%. It's 0.04%. It's gone up from 0.03 over the last couple decades. This is what we're being all contorted into doing, is this tiny change in CO2. If we get below 0.02, plant life starts dying off. So let me ask Mr. Boyd, what are a lot of your vehicles Tier 4 already, or the vehicles that you know about in the industry?
Yes.
All right, so that's the cleanest burning diesel equipment you can get, right?
Yes.
All right. How about Mr. Dreyer? What do you think?
Yes.
Okay. So why would anybody be anxious to go out and change out all those vehicles that you've been upgrading? In my home state of California, CARB has eliminated lots of equipment. Trucks, we're down at least 70,000 truckers, and all because they don't make a mandate for a 2011 a newer vehicle. And so it's going to be harder to get things from the ports, all this, all that. So
This message is for you if you are a United States citizen. Underneath Public Land Law 82, it states, if you find any gold or any other mineral upon New York State land, it's yours. So you want to check out our Rhyolite volcano movies, you will see if it was out west, they will have gold all around them. And there's no mountains in Canada and the Canadian Shield that would have glaciers strong enough to take a 32-ton boulder that stands 11 foot high to South Colton, New York. This rock is called Sunday Rock. So someday you might want to think about taking your vacation here. That is if you are a United States citizen. And the gold is right now over 1,900 a troy ounce. That's the end of part 4 movie. And the next movie is going to be about raccoons. You'll see a couple mother raccoons taking out their babies for the first time. And see what they do to them. And also you'll see if raccoons could talk, they would say trappers are their best friend for sure.